Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a while, so I thought I've got 5 minutes. It'd be nice to do a little video now. And it just occurred to me that I've never covered a technique called anchoring with you guys. Now, this is one of the fundamental techniques that an NLP practitioner will use. And the reason for that is because it will instantly interrupt somebody's negative pattern, and it will be a way of making them feel instantly more positive. So if you guys would like to be able to understand how to instantly feel good, then keep watching. So basically what is anchoring? It's a trigger and response pattern. So essentially, we need to decide what your trigger is going to be. I mean, everything is an anchor, right? Think about it like this. When you smell a certain smell, you get triggered to start remembering certain memories or feeling certain feelings. In fact, every word is an anchor. When you say a certain word to somebody, they will feel something, right? So what we're doing is using something that is very natural, and we're actually creating a new anchor. And if you do something enough, it starts to fire and wire together and it becomes a permanent resource. So you need to decide what kind of trigger you're going to use. A lot of people tend to use squeezing fingers together. It could be pushing a knuckle. It could be grabbing a wrist. Most people like this one because it's you can do that. You can be sitting like this on the hands on the table or with your arms on your lap, and nobody would know what you were doing. But by squeezing that, you'll be firing something that you've created, right? So how do we then get those positive emotions onto your trigger? The answer is you will have felt these positive emotions before at some point in your life. And because your brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality, if you start to remember those memories in the now, and you close your eyes and you really fully associate into that as if it's really happening, then your body will start to think it is happening, and it will create those emotions in your body. And it's a bit like a bell curve, right? So you're going to start to feel good as that becomes real for you, and it will start to rise, but at some point it will reach a peak and it will start to come back down again. So the optimal time to start setting that anchor is going to be when it's getting towards the top, right? So once you've got there, this is resting lightly, ready to go. You're then thinking of that memory and it starts to feel good. You're starting to go further up. Now, when it gets near the top, you can then squeeze the anchor and hold it for a good few seconds as that continues to rise towards the peak, and then you release just before it does peak, because if you let it overrun, you start to lose the intensity of that emotion. So we can stack multiple memories, multiple emotions on top of each other on the same trigger. So why don't you have a go at this? Have your hand lightly resting and just close your eyes for a moment. Think of a memory that you know is a purely positive moment. And, if it's a wedding day, you don't want the whole wedding day. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, like an episode. So you might want to just take what we call the apex moment, the best bit, a purely positive moment. So it could be when you were standing at the altar, or the first time you held your newborn child, whatever it might be. The most powerful ones are generally like love, to do with family and things like that. But you can use anything. It could be when you did a good presentation, you felt good when you were coming off stage, whatever it is. And we can start to build in other things as well. But let's just start with a basic memory. So have that memory in your mind, have your hand lightly resting with the trigger ready to go, close your eyes, and then use your imagination. Step into that memory and see it, hear it, and feel it. Really experience it in the first person as if it's really happening now. And as you're really starting to enjoy that, you'll notice that you start to feel those emotions coming to the surface now. And as you're doing that, you can turn up all of the different elements of that, the colors, the brightness, the sounds, and just squeeze as you start to feel that coming towards the top, and just really breathe in to just amplify all of that for a couple of seconds, and then release, open the eyes and come back. And you're just going to repeat that about 2 or 3 times for each memory. The only rule is when you choose other memories, you want to choose memories that have emotions that are going to complement the one that you've just done. So you don't want to have something that's very energized and then very calm, because the two will then clash. And you can set different anchors. So you could set one that's very upbeat, very exciting, very energized, very confident and upbeat on the other wrist. And on this wrist, you could have one that's very calming, very relaxing, very safe, very comfortable, all of those warm, fuzzy feelings. And you're just going to keep stacking it again and again until you've got a nice response. And how do we know we've got that and it's working? Well, we don't have to think of anything. We just grab the anchor and squeeze, and all of those wonderful emotions will start to flood back into your system because they're chemicals, right? So you'll notice that those things are moving and they start to feel good. And if you want a little extra tip, if you're thinking you've done about 4 or 5 of these, there's a couple of things you can do. You can add more richness to it by choosing different senses to focus on. So for example, after you've done your first one, you might think, right, what's a sound that I really love? It might be the piece of music you love, of being going to a gig. It could be someone's voice. It could be the sound of the ocean, whatever it is that you like. And then essentially you're going to do the same thing, but you start with the sound and then you think, when was it I was actually hearing that and it felt good, and it brings back a memory where the primary sense in that moment would have been the sound, and then you'll anchor that. And then you might do taste and smell and visuals, and also one that most people forget, which is self-talk, how we talk to ourselves, that audio digital inner monologue that we have. Now some of us have got negative or critical ones of those. You've got about 150 of them, potentially, those ego states. So find one that's a good one. So think of a time where you actually were either excited about doing something and the kind of things it said in that moment, or it could be getting yourself psyched up, ready to go on stage, or it could be that something went really well and then you're coming off stage and the kind of things you were saying to yourself were good. Like, yeah, I really nailed that. I did a great job. I feel good about myself. I'm proud of myself. And that will create emotions again. Now, once you've stacked about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different memories on the same anchor that complement each other, and you're still squeezing it and you think, yeah, it only feels about a 7 out of 10, and you'd like to ramp that up just a little bit. What you can do is use another technique called NLP Spinning. And what that will be is you've already got your anchor here. So you're not going to think of a new memory. You're simply going to squeeze the anchor. And when you start to feel those emotions coming up, all you're going to do is you're going to spin it faster. You can make it brighter. You can make it bigger. You can amplify the existing state. And when it starts to get near the top, you squeeze again and you anchor the strengthened state, holding for a good few seconds, and then you release before it gets to the top. And you can do that a few times. And then when you go back and you test it again, you'll notice that that's much stronger. All right. So play with anchors. They're really powerful. You might be surprised at just how powerful they are. The key to it is really imagining it and getting lost in how real that is, because your body will start to really respond to that emotionally, and then you anchor it. The key is not to over let it go because it starts to come down and you lose that, and not do it too quickly so you haven't got enough of it yet. So the sweet spot is on the bell curve just towards the top, and it's better to take it off too early, as in it's gone over and you start letting it go too late. And don't take too long with it either, because people are like, well, is it near the top? Is it near the top? If it's feeling good, that is the time to do it. And you can always amplify it by turning up all the different submodalities, the building blocks of that. If it's something visual, make it bigger, make it closer, make it brighter, make it more colorful. By changing these building blocks and making it more vibrant, it's going to affect the body more because it will change the meaning. It will amplify the intensity of that. And that's when you're going to anchor it. So play with your anchors and then keep using it once it's on there to keep it strong and to make it permanent by firing it and wiring it together. And then you can use that as a resource. If you're feeling a bit nervous before you go into a meeting, you can give yourself a positive boost. Okay? If you're doing it before you go on a date or whatever it might be, or you're just a bit nervous, you can do that. And you might be surprised at just how well you can then manage your emotional state, which means that you will be at your best, right? So I hope that was helpful. Have a wonderful afternoon in the sun, and I'll speak to you again soon.